And Will, just like that, the power of podcast, we are going. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for
Awesome.
coming. I
Hey,
appreciate
no
this.
problem.
How was your morning? I know I already asked you, but you got to let the listeners know. How was the morning?
The morning was fantastic.
Yeah?
I got up at 5:45. Got to work, set up boot camp. I had a ladies boot camp at 7 a.m. and then a co-ed class right after. And then I just did a heavy sled push with the sled out at work.
I was stalking your Instagram
Yeah.
story this morning, so I was watching what you were doing all morning, but I didn't know you were running boot camps and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But hey, that's
Every
awesome.
every Sunday morning.
So there is something about a Sunday morning workout that sets a little bit of momentum into the week.
100%.
It is.
It's interesting because I had a few new people out today, and they said the same thing. They asked if I had different classes, and I said right now it's only Sunday mornings. And
Yeah.
they said, you know what? I actually like getting up, having a reason to get up, and then be productive all day.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
And it's funny, as you get older, you start to figure out little tricks within your body that set momentum throughout the week. And some people
100%.
it's diet, some people
Yep.
it's exercise. It doesn't really matter what it is, but
Yep.
the more older I get, the more I guess little tricks I find out within myself. And that's the cool thing about getting older. You start to figure yourself out more and what works for you. And
Trial and error.
yeah, trial and error is definitely a
It's,
big one.
yeah.
So I was talking to Flinner the other day. We were playing golf. A wicked recommendation. Like I said, I was
Okay.
looking at your Instagram and some of the things you were doing. I did a couple push-ups this morning. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been to the gym in a bit. I'm a big running guy. Like, I do a little home workout, but some of the stuff that you're doing is I've never seen before. I didn't know like you're doing bench press without a bench.
Yeah.
Like how, where do you?
I don't know. I always, essentially kind of the way it started was I played basketball. When I started playing basketball, I was like around grade 9. And I was always smaller, and I was always kind of on the outskirts of making teams through high school at St. Pat's. They were like, they won 3-4 years in a row. And then St. Avex, who had just like won in the early 2000s, back-to-back national championships. So when I went there in 2006, they were still like a powerhouse. And I was kind of like a walk-on. So the gym was like essential for me in terms of an athlete in improving my performance. And then when I finished, I was still kind of into it. And I've always just wanted to continually improve in some manner, like continually push my body to the limits. And so like some of the stuff you see, those might not always be like part of my regular workout. Those might be like, okay, let me see where my training has taken me to see like what I can do, like connect like be able to like do push, like a rollout push up on the barbell. How can I maintain tension from my feet to my hands? Like is my training, doing what it needs to do to be functionally as strong as I can possibly be. So it's just been a constant, like all the time.
So it's not. It doesn't even really have to be like you're doing bench without a bench. It's just little progress that you're looking for. You're not
100%.
looking to do these amazing videos. You're just looking for a little bit of progress, and it doesn't matter what it is.
It's weird. It kind of started with me I used to work out at SMU.
I saw you took all the balls.
Yeah, like so, right before COVID initially, like the first COVID wave, I was in there with a buddy of mine, Marquise Carver. He played for the Hurricanes.
I know Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know him, but I've had
Yeah.
a couple conversations with him.
Yeah.
He's friends with Tyler Scott.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He's like my brother to me, and so he was working out with me, and I was like, I've always wanted to try this. I just want to jump on a stability ball in the gym and try to shoot a jump shot off it. And I started at the free throw line, and like moved back to the 3-point line. This is like the last day. I hit like the shot, and I was like, all right, like I'm happy with that. And then it just keeps growing. It's like, well, if I can do it from 3, let me try. Like the next time I got back in the gym, I was like, let me see if I can hit a half court shot from the ball. And then it just gradually, like me continuing to challenge myself physically to be like, all right, like why not try something harder? Why stop? Why get complacent? Because I find most people, maybe not most people, but in terms of like fitness and stuff, people are easily complacent and get happy or get content with where they're at. You know what I mean? Rather than just like get uncomfortable, push yourself like a little bit harder every time. So that's essentially like how those kind of videos happened a little bit.
It's an interesting perspective the way you have it, because I'm guilty of just going, okay, I just want to get a little bit of a bigger chest, some nice
Yep.
arms, my back, and
Yeah.
Christmas vacation rolls around. It's like, no, I'm good. I look good in the sweater.
Yeah.
I'll take a break from the gym for a bit.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of people that have the similar mindset. It's a thing, but I've never heard of a person coming into this podcast saying, no, I go to the gym not to look better. It's just to improve just a little bit from day to day. It's an interesting way you word it.
100%. I mean, you get the benefits too of looking good and feeling good too, right?
Yeah.
The more you push yourself. I was thinking the other day, I was like, workouts need to be challenging. They need to force some self-doubt, some uncertainty, so that when you get past those, you have a feeling of accomplishment. You have a feeling of achievement. You're not just kind of going through the motions. And don't get me wrong, like going to the gym or going for a ride or a run is better than doing nothing. But to say that you're just doing it to do it, like how much effect is that really having on your mind and body? You know what I mean? You're getting the aspect of the like the activity, but if you're not challenging yourself, how much is your mental game really improving, like throughout life? Because you face doubt all the time, self-doubt. Like I'm sure at times when you did your podcast, you're like, I don't know, man, like it's not going, maybe it's not getting the traction I want it to get right now. Like how, you know what I mean? And I just find that when you challenge yourself, like physically, the mental side just comes right with it.
Well, it's easy. The mental side is easier, I find. I don't think there'll be anything harder than taking a 7-mile run on a hot day in Halifax down to, Dalplex and then back. That's so mentally straining. So by the time I come back here, I have to respond to a couple emails, edit a video, get a podcast, sit down with you. Dude, I'm laughing.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. So the physical aspect definitely helps out the mental aspect, and it makes it a little bit more breezy, a little bit more easy. You're not thinking about the little things in life because you've already mastered that 5-mile run, or gym in your case, workout.
100%. I like to run too.
Do you?
Yeah, I run a lot of 5Ks. Nothing really more. I used to run. Have you ever heard of the Rum Runners Relay?
No.
It's a 10-leg relay race to Lunenburg.
Wow.
With it's a large running community, and there's usually 70 plus teams, probably like 1,000 plus people involved. My parents, my stepdad, and my mom put me in it. So those would be the longest runs I've ever done. But right now, I try to run like once or twice a week. During the pandemic, I did 14 straight 5Ks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love to run.
Yeah,
just like you said, battling yourself.
Yeah,
you just want to quit the whole time. If you're pushing,
the whole time.
When you start, you're like, "What am I doing?"
Oh yeah, 100%. You're just like, what the fuck? Just go home, lay on the bed. What are you doing right now? But I'm a big cold shower guy, and I find I don't have a sauna. One day I will, but I love just getting hot, sweating, and then as soon as it's over, just jumping in a cold shower. To me, there's no better feeling. Well, there's a couple other better feelings, but that's top 5. A cold shower after an extremely hot run, and then maybe like a green smoothie.
Yeah.
You feel like you don't feel human. You feel like you're a super.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable
100%.
the feeling you get. It's almost like when you get a bunch of likes on Instagram. What's that thing called? Endorphins or something like that. It's like the endorphins are just running through my body. I feel like I can do anything. It's like that's my go-to.
Yeah,
I love doing it.
I feel you on that. That's kind of like the Scandinavian countries with like the hot. Right.
Yeah.
Shocking your system a little bit. Feel alive.
Yeah, it's like a bathhouse. It's like you do the hot ass sauna, and then you jump in the cold tub.
Yeah,
that's all me right there. Most Canadians growing up play hockey. Mm-hmm. Did you play hockey, or are you just pure basketball?
So I actually did play hockey. I played when I was younger, before I played basketball. So I grew up in the North End. It's kind of interesting because societal structures usually have like, impoverished area play cheaper sports, basketball, minorities typically, and suburbia, higher socioeconomic status have the resources, and it's traditionally been like a white sport almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I was the opposite for me. So when I was in the North End, we used to play street hockey all the time. I used to play with a friend of mine, lived on the same street. His name's Bradley Day.
Okay.
He played football at Mount A.
Okay.
All Canadian. Played 2 ways, receiver, DB for a bit.
Wow.
Amazing athlete. And I always wanted to play hockey because all my friends that went to Beaufort played hockey, and they all grew up in the South End.
We definitely know some similar people in the North
Definitely.
End.
And so I always bugged my mom, and she finally, I don't know, we were on welfare, so I don't know how she found the money to pay for me.
Yeah.
But I played 2 years. All my gear was third hand, second hand. Like my gloves had holes in them, which kind of like an advantage because you're holding the stick almost with your palms, not the gloves, so you have real good. Anyways, went to a couple tournaments, played house league. Was an all-star. Loved it. Couldn't really stop. Could skate really fast.
Yeah.
Sucked at stopping. Like first game, flew right into the boards on an icing call.
Hey, at least you got out and you tried. You did
This is it.
Yeah.
So I loved hockey. Only played 2 years. We couldn't make it work. And then I played soccer as well a little bit during that time. And then we moved when I was in around grade six or seven,
Okay.
we moved to South Street near Dalplex.
Yeah.
And those years, grade 9, I started playing basketball. A friend of mine got me into it, and then it kind of just went that way. And then I started playing basketball from then on.
Was there any iconic moment of basketball that got you hooked? It could have been, Michael
Yep.
Jordan at the All-Star game.
Yep.
It could have been Space Jam the movie. I don't know. What was that moment that I'm hooked to this?
I was at a good friend of mine at the time, Ben Camo, and we were watching the first, I think, national televised Raptors game. I think it was Toronto versus Phoenix, and Vince Carter scored about 51 points or something. And he used to have like a net on the back of his garage. It was super low. Like we'd always just jam, like dunk on it and like have fun.
Yeah.
Jump like foot off the garage door to get up higher because we were both like small. That was the time. Like I watched that. I was like, this guy's an incredible athlete.
Wow.
And I was just like started loving basketball. And then it just kind of blossomed to that.
Did you go to that Raptors game here back in the?
My mom or my stepdad, I think at the time, they were dating,
Yeah.
bought us tickets to the Grizzlies game, but I didn't I wasn't into basketball as much. It was just kind of more, I was younger. It was kind of more like a spectacle. It was just like you're going to do something.
Yeah.
We used to go to the CIS AUS finals. So like when I was younger, that was fun.
To this day, those are one of my favorite sporting events in Halifax. Even though they're only once a year, I don't think they've happened
So
because of COVID. They weren't here the past 2 years, I don't think.
the
But
AUS and CS stuff.
yeah. But when those do happen in the finals, even in the semifinals, you get a packed Metro Center.
It's crazy.
It's so much fun.
It's amazing. I felt terrible because Coach K just retired
Oh, did
from
he?
St. FX after 40 plus years.
That's a guy I'd love to get on the podcast. one day.
He's phenomenal. It's like
Did he coach you at St. FX?
Yeah.
He must have, obviously.
yeah. So this past year that just finished was supposed to be his retirement year, and they had a big plan to have like a dinner, invite all the players back. It was X's turn to host nationals. So the way they've run it the last like 4 or 5 years was that the host team automatically made the nationals.
Okay.
They still play
Yeah,
in the
sorry.
AUS and
Yeah.
stuff. So if you win, whatever. But if you lose, you still make nationals. So like regardless, he would have been on the national stage, like in front of all of his peers. Obviously, you already know how big it is in the city. So it would have just been a really good way for him to go out. Unfortunately, COVID kind of shot that in the foot, which sucks for him because he had such an amazing, illustrious career and set such like a precedent at X with the team and the culture and the but yeah, it's an environment that's like when you go there. I told my girlfriend like she hates going with me now because I run into so many people that I don't see anymore.
Oh, you're
and
that
it's
guy.
always
Yeah.
not like that guy, but like I don't try to be, but you just see people that within like whether you're playing at X or they just know you through basketball. So it's always like a fun time to say like, hi, how are you guys doing? And see the athletes like performing on that stage in front of the lights.
That's cool.
You got to love it.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never played basketball or I've never had a conversation with Coach K, but I hear nothing but great things.
Yeah.
What is it about that guy that allows players to follow his leadership? Is it his personality? Is it the things he says in the room? Is it his demeanor? What is it about that guy that just attracts people to him and allows him to win championships?
He's a human. Like he cares about people. He actually genuinely like cares how his players do in life. Like it's not I'm filling a roster spot for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. If they fail out, I just got to replace them. He's not that type of guy. he's the type of guy that would like fly to somebody's house that he's recruiting in the States and meet with their parents once or twice or three times if he had to, in order to convince them to come. He's not going to just give you a call or shout and just hope that you come. Like, he actually genuinely cares about people. There's meetings all through the year about your marks, how you're doing in school, what you're going to do when you finish school. Whereas like, and there's a structure with everything. Like the whole, it's not just like you show up at practice and you go home, or like you're on the road, just show up. Like we have dinner, we used to have dinners pre-game. They're always scheduled, like teams, everything's together.
Sounds like a pro environment.
Very big pro environment. Like and on top of that, he's, phenomenal scout. Obviously his brother was one of the biggest scouts in American basketball. He had just, rest in peace, had just passed away, which again, like really tough time for him because he couldn't travel during COVID. It just goes to show, like, I don't really want to go off branch, but a lot of people are like frustrated about the lockdowns and everything. It's like, you hear stories like that, like people actually losing family and they can't go see them. Like those are things that you get frustrated about, not like maybe not being able to go to the gym or go to, concert or something for however long it is. Right. But back to the main issue, great eye for talent, cares about people, and, really good recruiter too. Knows he, like, talent level is always high, all of his teams.
What is it about someone that allows someone else to recruit a person for 4 years and convince them to come to their school? Like, think about that. That's such a, if you actually like sit down and like actually, it's such a weird concept.
It's very, very,
but it's people's jobs. They have to go to someone's house and go, look, we love your son, we love your daughter, we think that they're an exceptional talent.
Yeah.
We would love to turn them into a man or turn them into a woman over the next 4 years of college. It's such an interesting perspective of a relationship.
It really is. It's special, right? Because, I mean, there's certain schools that you might look at and they might have a turnover rate every year. You know what I mean? Whereas I think X, for the most part, primarily, like most teams are the same guys, like that come in the same years together, finish the same years together, which is speaks to the volumes of like the coach, the culture, the team, all that. And that is one of the hardest things to do, I think, because within sport, everybody has an ego. As much as we like to try to, like, say like I'm not better than so and so. Everybody wants to go in with the idea that I'm going to be top of the food chain. I want to be the star. I want to be a starter. I don't want to be sitting on the bench just cheering everybody on, right? And everybody that comes and plays at university level usually primarily is 1-2 player on their high school team. So, they've either worked to get to where they were at high school level, or they were just, a very good athlete and player. And then when you go to that next level, everybody's kind of jockeying and reshuffling to find out, like, where do I sit on the team hierarchy? Like who's who? And then once they kind of figure that out, or they don't figure that out, that's where the coaching comes into play, because certain players might not be happy with their roles. It's a struggle, not only like with sport, then there's school, then there's the social. So there's all these like factors that are kind of spinning around and playing with a young man's head, where it's like, if things aren't going well in sport, he might tail off to like going out more, drinking a bit more with the boys. Then he's showing up to practice, still complaining about his role on the team. Guys on the team know what he's doing. They're like, you keep complaining like a little baby. He's like, you don't want to work hard for it, right? And then the coach has to deal with all that and figure out, does he deserve more? Coach might not know he's going out. All these things. He might be slipping in school. Still, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
There's so many factors that go into keeping a player for 4 years, like you asked. And like I said, Coach K, for the most part, did do a phenomenal job at keeping guys. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, my first year, I was like a walk-on. I didn't play a lot. I really wanted to, so I was frustrated. There was times where I talked to other players that were frustrated. We're like, man, like, what should we do? Should we go to like a worse team so that we'll play more and get actual like more time? but like obviously those are just like kind of insecure feelings and thoughts that kind of come out in weak moments that you have.
Yeah.
Instead, stick to the script, put your head down, get your like lunch hat on.
Well, that's
play
the
along.
next question. What
Yeah.
were some of the things that you did as that player that was on the bench or that was on the bubble? Obviously, those players need to do little things in order to stand out, in order to be noticed. What were some of the little things that you went above and beyond just to stay there?
So yeah, when I started, no scholarship, no real guarantee of like any kind of like future. Essentially, kind of how I got there was like T-Bear Upshaw was like the most highly recruited basketball player out of Nova Scotia at the time. He was like meeting with teams in the States, and he was telling like coaches like, I want my best friend Will to come play with wherever. So I would get to talk to certain teams.
Cool.
Even though I was a good basketball player, like I was second in the league in scoring in high school, although my name was in the paper because I broke my collarbone. My first game, my grade 12 year, grade 11, there was 11 grade 12s on the team. So I didn't get to play a lot. We were still blowing teams out. So I get here and there, but grade 12, I'm like, all right, great. I'm get to show my stuff. I'll go to college, broken collarbone.
How'd you break it, if you don't mind me asking?
Trying to run through a screen, trying to like demolish and just bulldoze some kid with like, say you're not, and I hit him with my like a weird angle.
You're setting like a pick?
No, he was on me.
Oh,
and I was trying to
okay,
I was trying to go through him. Like, I'm a very physical player.
Okay.
There's where the hockey, that's where the hockey side of me comes in. And anyways, hit him. A couple seconds later, they'd scored. They hit a shot. I went to get the ball, and my shoulders like went super upset, crying, kind of because of pain, but also because I was like in high school. I worked really hard too. I was at the gym all the time. Anyways, fast forward X, no scholarship. I just do whatever the coaches ask me to do. I don't argue with them. It's another thing a lot of players and athletes tend to do is, unless you're at the top of the food chain, unless you're, the Nate McKinnons of the world, the Sidney Crosbys, you got to shut up and listen. You have to put your time in. You have to show people that you're willing to work and grow towards somebody that the coaches can trust, believe in, and actually see like progress. That might take longer sometimes, depending on the coach, the system, who's in front of you. So like at the time, I was probably 165.
A little closer.
Sorry
yeah.
I was 165, 70 pounds. I was really small for a basketball player. I'm about 5'9", 5'10". I was getting thrown around my first year. One of the guys on the team was 6'3", 220. His brother plays for the Dallas Cowboys, Neville Gallimore. Gary is his brother. He was my roommate at one point. Anyways, tossing me, throwing me. I had to so every practice I lifted weights before I go to practice. A lot of basketball players didn't really like doing that. I felt sore a little bit, didn't like to shoot after, thought it would hurt their performance. Where in my mindset, I'm like, I'm already at the bottom right now. The only thing I can, like, this is one of the main things I can do to contribute to myself getting bigger, getting bigger, but also getting ready for the next year and the following year. Like a lot of young athletes, they should be prioritizing their body, especially within university sport, because when you're in your third, fourth, fifth year, if you play 5 years, you're going to be going up against first, second, third years that are, if you grow yourself as a system, you're going to be playing people that are going to be much more disadvantaged to you at that time in your life. That's why like hockey, sometimes like in university, I think some guys would be 26 or 25. Same football, they had to cap it back in the day because SMU had like 27 or 28-year-olds.
Yeah, they got in trouble for that.
They changed the rule because of that. So it's like, because it's like a grown man playing against a child. Whereas that's where the gym comes into me. It's like, okay, if I can get my body ready and I can get to the level these guys are at, when I'm in their position, I'm going to do the same thing to rookies or to juniors or sophomores when they're in, because they're not physically developed and
I see what you're saying. Okay.
They don't care. And then on top of that, you put the other time in, like go and shoot. So like you asked, like we'd go away on trips. We went to Boston College my first year. I didn't play a lot. Boston College, Harvard, Holy Cross. Again, that's where the culture comes in. How do you keep a guy at St. FX? You go play, prestigious U.S. schools. Yeah. And you see some other schools doing that a lot more now. It's fun. You get to see the campuses, the locker rooms, the difference in resources. Like, it's insane. Like, just looking at the football fields, I was like, I couldn't imagine playing in front of this many fans. Um, but yeah, like we'd come back from a tournament like that where I didn't play a lot. First thing I'd do, I'd go to the gym and just start shooting. Like I wouldn't get back like most players and be like, it's Sunday at like 4 o'clock. Like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna chill. I'm tired. We just drove, flew. Like I was like, I want to go. Like I got to get some work in. I didn't do anything this weekend.
Man, you're young and have that mindset. That's
I just loved. I wanted to be. I did not want to be the player that was like. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being that
no.
player that like picks up other guys and like is the hard worker. Because I was always that guy. But the only way to kind of get out of that is to keep working and to figure out, like you said, trial and error. Like how do we find out where we're not, like how to improve, how to be more efficient is to have a routine and stick to that routine and then figure out, okay, this is working, this isn't working. I want to bump it up a little bit. I want to get better. I'm not hitting my shot the way it is. I'm not as explosive as I need. So that's essentially like how it started, and kind of gradually through 5 years
Yeah.
stuck to that plan.
And it's so interesting now how your career is training pro athletes or just other people in
Yeah.
general, and how that's kind of translated into your professional life. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe you weren't the all-star on the basketball team, but you're, from what it sounds like, the hardest worker on that team. And it's almost like maybe it didn't pay off on the court as much as you wanted to, but it's paying off in your professional life. Am I kind of on the right?
You are. Well, I actually, it's funny thing is you say, I did my fourth, fifth year. I was a league all-star both years.
Okay, my
No,
apologies.
it's all
Okay,
good. It's
so
all
my
good.
apologies.
Yeah. So it's funny though, like my second year, there's the team always has awards at the end of the year, right?
Okay.
So my second year, they have this like player appreciation award. So it's like they appreciate the hard work. So that's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like the hard worker award.
Yeah.
Then my third year, most improved award.
Yeah.
Then fourth year, league all-star. Fifth year, league all-star, co-MVP with my best friend T-Bear, and I won the Rod Shoveler tournament MVP, which is like the biggest basketball tournament here for college at Christmas time. That's played at Dal.
Wow.
Yeah, so like a lot of things, like
A lot of things paid off.
tied for 7th all time in assists at Saint FX with
Dude,
like.
why?
So it's just like I try to preach to like athletes all the time, and why you say like how it's translated into like my profession. Like I worked in a restaurant when I was young, and I started as a busser, and then finished as the manager of the restaurant. That's how I transitioned to training people. But it's like a lot of people feel like they're stuck, or they're set in these positions, in these spots in life, whether it's like, oh, I'm going to be like this my whole life, or my dad's this type of genetic, so I'm going to be like this. It's like, no, what do your parents do? Are they like, in terms of fitness, like are they like being active all the time? Maybe not. So maybe if you're more active than them, you'll change what you think is set in stone for you, right? But yeah, that's essentially how I try to push a lot of my athletes and clients, is to really challenge them to get like uncomfortable and not settle, to kind of, go through the motions and have these expectations that you're going to be stuck in a certain role or certain place in life. You can always go wherever you want. You just got to be willing to work for it. I was willing to work for where I got in university. I put a ton of hours in though. People were partying, people were going out. My last few years, I really like buckled down nutrition wise. I started eating way, way better. Had a huge difference on me mentally and physically, and didn't go out nearly as much. Spent way more time in the gym.
Dude, I find like not drinking is a huge thing for my mental clarity and work ethic. Like if I have 3, 4 beer in a night, the next day, like I'm down and out, maybe even the day after. But if you can somehow translate, 15 days straight without drinking, I feel like a better person. I feel so mentally clear. I know what I need to do. I know how to do it. I know how to treat other people with maybe a little bit more respect than you would. Not that drinking makes you like a ruder person, but it's just I'm more aware of the surroundings that I'm in.
100%.
I'm more aware of people's feelings. I'm more aware of the energy that's in the room. It's an odd thing.
It's
It's
you're right on par. I always talk to a friend of mine that I did some podcasts a couple years ago when COVID first happened, and we always used to talk about like that, like drinking the next day is almost like a write-off. I mean, maybe if you don't go super hard and you're kind of having some casuals,
Glass of wine.
but
so,
even but even if you're like, having 6 to 8, 10 beers, if they're Coronas, you're still going to be lackadaisical. You're still going to have that like really like sluggish feel and start to the day where you're like kind of like you're just not nearly as efficient. You're kind of foggy. Things are taking a lot longer to kind of just connect and like, you know what I mean? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. There's something I was going to say. I was going to get onto.
You must have been drinking last night. You don't remember. I'm just messing.
I actually was.
Were you? Yeah.
I was.
there
That's
you go.
hilarious. I had a few Coronas.
Did you?
Yeah. A friend of mine who's home invited me over. We just went over there and had a barbecue.
Love it.
Yeah.
I saw you put like bacon grease on your steak. It looked unreal. I was like,
I did.
So how did you get the bacon grease? You just cook bacon in the morning. And
So whenever I cook bacon, I save the bacon grease and put it in a jar. I've been doing that for a minute.
The steak that you put on the grill looked like you had like some spice on there. It looked really good.
I love cooking. I learned. Yeah, I always try to like whatever I do. I always trying to take things away from it.
Yeah.
In life, like I worked in restaurant industry for 14, 15 years of my life. Like, what the hell would I be doing if I didn't know how to cook like something, right?
Yeah.
But love cooking, and love bacon.
Isn't that a bad thing though? Bacon's good, but
I mean,
you got to enjoy little things, I guess.
I think it's all subjective. It depends on what you're eating outside of that, right? Like I'm a very clean eater for the most part.
Yeah.
The last like 2-3 years, I'm not a breakfast person. So like there's certain days right now where I might not eat until I get home from work. So I'll work Monday to Thursday, 6 a.m. till like I start with clients at 6 a.m. So I'm up at 5, clients until 8 or 9 at night. Sorry, 7 or 8 at night. And then I get home around 8:30 or 9 or 7:30 or 8.
So you don't eat all day.
Some days I don't eat till I get home, and then I eat a lot at home at night. And then those big meals at night kind of fuel me through the day. My goals might be different than other people's. Like I'm very like I have very like high standards as aesthetically. Like I like being lean and muscular. I try to. It's not easy, but those are just like that's how I do it.
There's a lot of correlation right now between fasting and preventing cancer. You heard tons.
Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of it is due to, a lot of people overeat throughout the day or necessarily overeat carbohydrates. They get bellies. That's where primarily they're starting to correlate cancer and diabetes and stuff is big stomachs. Whereas like when you're fasted, essentially your body's going to start using whatever is in its system and starts turning to use fat essentially to burn energy. So the more carbs you eat, and I'm not saying carbs are bad, especially for athletes. Athletes really need a lot of them. But for people that are primarily like doing, say, like if your job is to sit down all day, you don't need to crush like a ton of carbs all day. In fact, it's probably going to put you in a sense where you're just going to burn those carbs and then replace them. So you're never really going to get into those fat stores. And over time, boom, decade goes by, you look at yourself, you're like, yo, what happened to me? It's like, well, you're sitting down most of the time and watching, going on vacations or whatnot. I mean, it all depends on your goals kind of physically, but I think when it comes to nutrition, there's a lot of people that have this idea that like, I have to have breakfast, I have to have lunch, I have to have dinner. I need 3 meals a day. I'm going to have my snacks in between, and no one's really going to tell me otherwise because that's a healthy like balance. And some people get like, I remember talking to certain people talking about being fasted through the days, and like some people would be like, well, that's unhealthy. Like you're starving yourself. And in my head, I'm like, why is it unhealthy? Did you research it?
Yeah.
Have you looked into it? It just makes you uncomfortable. And therefore you project on me that I'm being unhealthy because we're just doing different things.
I've I've watched, or I guess listened to a couple podcasts, and they talk about the correlation of hunger and work ethic. Because us as a human body, we're meant to hunt our own food. We're meant to get up and, go get fur to stay warm. We're meant to move.
Yep.
And if you sit down and you have breakfast first thing in the morning, your body goes, oh, you're good. relax,
Usually
have
have it.
fun. You're good. But when I wake up, I don't eat till like 1, 2 o'clock. I'm
Yep.
up at like 7. I don't eat till like 1, 2. And my productivity level is not, I'm not gonna say through the roof, but I'm not out looking for meat and fur to stay warm, but I'm on my laptop hustling, editing, emailing, lining up podcast guests. I'm working. I'm hungry in the sense of not for food, but to become a little bit more successful each and every day. And when I first started this company, I was breakfast. I'd have lunch at like 11. That's 2 meals before 11. I love food. Who doesn't?
Yep.
But like I said, when as you get older, you start to learn about your body, you start to learn about your mind, and you learn to you figure out what works for you. And that's a big thing for me is waking up. I like coffee. Don't I like my espressos in the morning?
100.
You too?
Oh, love
Yeah.
coffee. I need a coffee every morning.
Multiple for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I know that'll be another
Yeah.
conversation, but it correlates into hunger, into work ethic for me. Not eating in the morning. That's just how I feel about it. It's and it really works for me. Probably like since COVID started. That's probably when I started to I guess figure out my body a little
Yep.
bit more. People have so much more time on their hands.
100%.
This is when I built this studio, so this allowed notice how there's no windows in
Yep.
here. It's a distraction free zone other
Yep.
than the TV that we chuck on every now and then.
Yep.
But it's a distraction free zone. It allows me to come down here and work, and it allows me to be productive. And yeah, the no eating thing in the morning definitely helps me.
Well, you hit I think you hit the nail on the head, like where you said, not to say that my productivity is through the roof. You took the words out of my mouth because it is like you're just being humble. Like you're just a much more productive, efficient human when you're kind of searching for that energy. You're trying to figure things out. And whereas like when people come eat, like have these big breakfasts, you usually have like maybe an insulin spike and they get that sluggish kind of feel. And then it's hard to kind of get going again. So I'm a big fan of it. And, I try to bring salads to work. So some days if I don't have a salad, those are the days that I might not eat until like the end of the day. I've also tried to buy these like from Costco, these protein plus drinks just to get a little more protein in my system and trying to retain a little more muscle because I've been, going through like days where I've been fasted a little too long and I want to get a little bit stronger. So I need to keep that protein on.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, the other days, like some days from 5 a.m. till 9, and I'm still doing everything that you see on my social media. All my workouts that I do are fasted.
Really? No, you got nothing in you.
Pretty much everything's from the night before.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What is it about your clients that they respect out of you the most, you think? I think, there's a lot of trainers out there. Let's not lie to each other here.
Mm.
There's a lot of people that
Mhm.
think they can do what you do.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's many, I just think there's few successful people that do what you do. And it seems like you're on the track of being a successful, if not already a successful trainer. I've heard that, from what Flinner told me, you train a lot of incredible athletes from around this part of the world. What is it about you that you think people respect out of what you do the most?
Well, I think they know that for one, I'm working hard. Like they obviously said, you see the Instagram, like you see the videos. They know I'm not Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
They know I'm not bullshitting. They know I'm not fucking around when I show up at the gym. Like I'm not gonna babysit you and tell you like it's okay. Like you can't do this, you can't do that. Because they see that I push myself so hard. I'm also an empathetic person too. Like I'm not gonna shit on somebody for not being able to do something. I'm gonna really try to build them up and explain to them like where they're struggling, how to improve on it, why taking this challenge on is going to help them not only, with whatever we're doing, but like you said, elsewhere in their life, whatever their job is, whatever their relationships are with their family, it's going to improve all those other aspects of their life. They're going to be a more patient person when they leave the gym. They're going to feel just more powerful, more self-confident. So I think, kind of like what I said about Coach K, like I actually really care about a lot of my clients, well, all of them, like the athlete side of things. I didn't have a trainer like growing up. I had to learn everything kind of by myself or with other like my friends that we were going to the gym with.
Like was YouTube a thing back then?
Not really,
No.
not particularly. When I got to X, we started kind of working out in high school, but we were kind of just doing like the basics, like bench press, squat, and probably the form was probably terrible. Um, and you're just like trying to be, again, the ego, like you want to be that guy, and you're like 160 pounds soaking wet,
Yeah.
and you're looking at people, and you're like, no, you can't. You're not there yet. But when I got to X, I really kicked in for me is when I started working out with a group of football players. Kwame Ose, Koshi Mwamba, Enoch Mwamba, and Akeem Foster, Dylan Houlihan, Ryan Olson. There's a bunch of them, and there's a couple ladies that showed, like Meg Lee Harvey came and worked out sometimes. She was like rugby player of the year. Enoch played for the Indianapolis Colts for a couple years. He plays for the Argonauts right now.
Wow. Where does he live right now?
He's probably in Toronto now. Well, he's lived in Toronto, but he played for Indy for a couple of years. He played for like Montreal,
No way.
Winnipeg. He was the first overall pick in the CFL one year. His brother Koshi played for BC, Winnipeg. He's won a couple Grey Cups. Anyways, I started working out with them, and one of my biggest things for basketball was trying to be like more explosive, more powerful. I wasn't always like the highest jumper or fastest person on the court. I was quick. I was a good athlete. Probably I could dunk off 1-2 feet, but not like the T-Bear. Like I'm not windmilling over people, right? So I want to get strong but stay powerful. So I started working with football guys because that's primarily what they do. Power. And I learned a lot through them. Some of them had a trainer back home from Ontario, so I would really take in everything that we did, and I would apply it in the off season with my own training, kind of tinker it around a little bit. And then ever since like I finished at X, I've always just been like, again, like you said, trial and error, like just playing around with like programs, reading like books, like anatomy books or like sports specific training.
You've read an anatomy book before?
Wrote. Sorry, not wrote. Read. Sorry.
Wow.
Like I took anatomy. I took human kinesiology.
Did you?
At X? Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been 15 years of training for me, pretty much.
You could probably teach that class by now.
I wouldn't go that far. I still have people that correct me sometimes on the social media fitness police that will that like tell me the form's not perfect or you're not doing this right or whatever. And I think I don't care for that anymore. I used to kind of you might get a little like kind of like taken back or like upset at first when I first started my page and stuff. But now I don't care. Like, you can't worry about those kind of things. Everybody has their own type of training. That's one thing I've come to realize and really like love is that like not everybody's training for the same thing. Not everybody's trained to be a power athlete. Not everybody's trained to be an aerobic athlete. Some people want to look good. They don't care about anything else. Some people are power lifters. They're going to have that bigger bellies because they're eating lots of, donuts and they're trying to get as much energy for their big lifts as not to feel inferior or insecure because somebody else is just doing something different. Whereas like on online, like everybody just wants to correct everybody and tell them, do this a little bit different. And you're just kind of like, I'm at the point where it's like, I just laugh. I'm like, all right, like, cool.
That's a good thing to have people commenting, saying stuff. Like if no one's commenting, that means you're not doing your job correctly.
One of my best friends said, he said when I started getting like kind of like some hate on a bunch of my posts, was like, you're starting to make it when people just start shitting on your post for no reason. And I've had some crazy stuff, like people saying like, you must not be able to sleep at night because you're going to hurt somebody. Really bizarre things. It's more funny now when you think about it. Yeah.
No,
it's different.
What do you want me to say, man? You're doing the right thing. If they, are you ever commenting on other people going, oh, you're doing the wrong form?
I don't do that.
Exactly. Because you're too busy doing your job.
Well, this is it. If you're looking at everybody else, what are you doing for yourself? Right.
Do you think you have time to do that shit? No.
And that's what I tell people all the time about fitness. Like you said, with my clients, I'm like, if you're like, a lot of people get, shy. They're so scared to kind of get back into the gym and really like, I'm not in the shape I used to be. I'm insecure to like be in front of other people. And I'm like, you're too worried about other people. You need to worry about yourself. You need to worry about what you're doing and where you're going and put the energy that you're focusing on other people in the gym and focus it on yourself. Or they're looking at me, they're talking about me. No,
Mm.
they're doing their own thing. You're in your own head.
I think that's the first step to success.
Yep.
Is not worrying about what other people think.
100%.
But I think it's the biggest step too. I think
Yep.
it's one of the biggest steps there is to being a successful person.
For sure.
Because if you're going to be successful, you're not doing the exact same thing that everyone. I moved back here from Vancouver, and I lived out there for a bit. I was doing like commercial acting and stuff,
Okay.
and it was like okay money. It was actually pretty good, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do. Too much waiting, too much trying to impress other people.
Yeah.
And I moved back to Halifax, and I got a great friend that lives here. He works at the bank.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about like it was one of those times where I was going through what do I want to do? Do I really want to take this podcast thing serious, or do I want to, I worked at the bank as well. Do I want to go back to the bank? And we were starting to talk about success and what do I want to do for a living and
Yep.
the future and those talks.
Yep.
And he's like, dude, like in especially in Nova Scotia, if you want to be successful, you can't go the same way as everyone else. If
No.
it's too small of a city, it's too small of a province. If you want to be successful, you have to go in your own direction. You have to do your own certain things.
Yep.
And I took that to heart, and I'll never let that conversation go because he's absolutely right. If you want to be successful and you want to, be an entrepreneur and be your own boss, you can't do the exact same thing as everyone else is doing. But with that comes judgment. With that comes jealousy. With that comes so many other different things. And that was tough for me at the beginning. When I started this podcast and you start talking about what you're feeling, how, your opinion on things, it's not going to be the most popular thing, and that's tough every now and then to get that from other people because I'm 29 now, so I guess I started this when I was 26.
Yeah.
And those those years I've definitely changed as a person, and
Yep.
now I really don't care about what anyone thinks. And
Yep.
but at that very beginning step, it's definitely tough. It's tough to take that first step forward for sure.
How many people tried to correct you on your podcasts when you first started them and give you advice on how to?
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just like you'd get like random DMs from people that aren't even an account. Like people would
Yeah.
create an account with no followers,
Yeah.
and just be like, "Are you fucking kidding me, you idiot? What are you doing starting a podcast? You fucking suck. Get the fuck out of here." Like we'd get messages of people like we went to a BMO, the hockey rink, to go sell some of our clothing.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of it, and we posted it, and then I got like 2 messages, and it was people going, "You'll never sell a piece of fucking clothing, you loser, get out of here." And the people don't have any, like there's no you know what I mean, no followers, no nothing. But what I just said to you about how if you don't have people commenting on you saying that you're doing this
Yep.
wrong. But at the time when I first learned that, I went to one of my buddies who's, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Look, man, like these people are messaging me saying, you'll never sell a piece of clothing." And he's like, "Dude, no, that's good. That you want
yeah,
that
you
because
want-
you have that. People
Yeah.
are noticing."
Because somebody's probably saying something to him, and then he's
Exactly.
like looks at it, he's like, no, can't be, and then just
Yeah.
drives him crazy.
And so when I heard that lesson for the first time, I was like, "Oh, so you want this to happen?" He's like, "Yes,
Yeah.
that's
want
the
people to
key
question
to it.
it.
You want people to be like, no, you can't do it. That
Yeah.
you're not doing it right. That's it.
100%.
Kind of cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
all go through the same thing. It doesn't matter if what you're doing in life, as long as you know.
Well,
I say this every podcast. People listening to this podcast
Yeah.
probably hate me for it, but it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. The same core values come into play whenever you're doing business.
Yep.
It's cool.
100%. 100%.
It's
Definitely.
really cool.
Yeah.
What's it like training Nate Darling?
That was really interesting because I'd heard a lot about him. Like when I'd finished playing basketball at X, he was young. Him and Lindell Wigington, who is on the Minnesota D League
Yep.
team, I think, were like the up and coming stars of the city for like basketball. And like I'd always hear about him. Like he scored 50 points on Team Ontario and at SMU for like a I think nationals or something like that. And I'd never actually seen him play in person really. And then a few years before I actually trained him, I used to play in a men's league or summer league, and we got to play against his team. So I was like, I'm always the type of player that like when I finished playing basketball and I used to go watch, whether it was like university and a guy was like killing like another team and I'd have a chance to play against him in the summer, like I always want to guard him. So I always prided myself on being like a really good defender. So I was like, all right, I'm matching up with Nate. And then I guarded him most of the game. He probably still scored like 25 or some points. But that's when I was like, holy shit, like this guy knows how to play. Like he knows how to use people on the court. He can shoot. He can do all these things. And this was like a few years ago. He reached out to me last summer about like training and working out.
Before he made the Hornets.
Yeah. Yeah. So he came in for 2-3 months, maybe 2 months or so. When I started at I only started at Pro Edge in July. So he came in right around there and stayed like right until I think early September maybe. And we started training. And one of the things that I loved about training him is I got to ask him questions about like his college career, like how he switched from I can't remember the name of the school, like Alabama to wherever he was at, Delaware. And Delaware is where he really took off, where he was like 20th in the country in scoring before the year he got drafted, which is crazy. Like it's actually crazy to think that he was top 20 in American D1 scoring, like averaging 20 something points a game.
It's the kid from Bedford.
You know what I mean? Like, and so I'd get to ask him questions about like, just like self-doubt, like how much time do you like, what's the most you ever shot? Like how many shots did you ever shoot in a day? Cause I used to put in work, right? I'm thinking to myself, like,
Yeah.
let me see how many shots. And he says some crazy number, like made 1,400 threes in a day or something. And you're like,
No.
I'm like in my head, I'm like, okay, that's just insanity. But to a kid like him, you know, who left home at an early age, you know, he was the same thing. He's in his bag. Like he's just working nonstop to get to where he wants to go. And I remember I get to ask him like, how do you think you do against like some of these top players? And the confidence, like just like exuded off of him. Right. And I'm like, we're talking about like guys that are gonna be top 5 picks in the NBA. And he's like, it didn't even like, there was no hesitation like about his own self-confidence matching up with those guys. And then you have him playing with LaMelo Ball now, who is number 1 pick. So it's like, it's just really, it was really cool to see like a kid come in who knew that like, all right, I know where I'm at, like ball wise, skill wise. Now I really have to focus on getting stronger, getting more athletic, and building like my man body and becoming like a grown man, because I'm about to go play with grown ass men, which is true. Like if you look at the NBA and you kind of follow people's careers until they kind of get into that like 23, 26 range, and if they're in the playoffs, it's usually a little bit of a struggle because physically the game is different. Like even if you like, I don't know if you ever watch much of the NBA like the last few years. Yeah. Regular season, a lot of high scoring, a lot of like really weak foul calls, guys just going to line. Playoffs, a lot different. Players don't play the same. They don't shoot the same percentages. You're getting bumped a lot more. You're getting worn down a lot more. It's the end of the season. So until guys actually build themselves up to get through like 80 games, then play another 7, 7, 7, then 7 ideally, you need the strength to be able to not like just break down, not to be fatigued, right? Not only that, you're playing with 30-year-olds that have been doing it for, you know, forever. So if you look at, there's only a few players that kind of came through the league and that were really successful, and you can only really think of like LeBron James pretty much, and look at him. He's already a specimen, right? So it's like, it was really cool to see a kid that was like, all right, I have to start doing this now if I want to be successful at the next level. It's like you said, when you go from high school to university, you go from the top back to the bottom, and you start grinding, then you go back to the bottom. You got to keep grinding to get back to the top. So that was one of the fun things, and just to see the intensity. Like he never really looked at me and been like, I don't want to do this. Like, why would I lift something? I don't want to lift heavy. Like I'm a basketball player. Like, you know what I mean?
So he had that same mindset of, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll do.
He had the same mindset, and he was dealing with like kind of a nagging bicep issue, and he still showed up. Like we would adjust workouts, and he still showed up, and he wasn't just saying like, I'll take 2 weeks off and I'll come back. He was like, I still got to like get in here and do this. And I think another interesting thing was the day that he had to do like a video for a couple teams of him shooting, like a certain NBA pre-draft like shooting workout. I think Brandon Brown helped him with it. Anyways, he was like, we were talking about it, and one day like he didn't shoot so well, and I was like, come in, we'll work out a little bit, we'll do some legs, we'll get everything fired up. We won't go like crazy hard, but you'll get your juices flowing, you'll get things connected from feet up. And he left, did his session, sent me a message later, said he just killed it, and then the rest is kind of history. He had spoken about like where he was going to go or ideally going, and then got signed right after the draft, like quickly. So I was thrilled for him. Just a nice, like a really nice guy, but also a guy that's like, just he'll just tear your head off on the court, like talk shit to you. And you're like, kid from Bedford. And he just looks at you and be like, I'm going to bust your ass. And like, that was cool for me, because I never thought he'd be like that. Because when you think of Bedford, you think, no disrespect to anybody from Bedford, but you think soft. I'm sorry. Like I come from North End, and a little bit through the South End a little bit, but like from my experience in life, I think Bedford, I think soft, and it's no disrespect to anybody. Those are just kind of the societal structures.
Stereotypes,
yeah, the stereotypes that life puts in you.
Yeah.
So that was really cool for me.
That's unreal.
That was one of the coolest things that like was to train him. Was like, this guy's not soft at all. Like this guy's like, he's gonna kick your ass.
That's so sick. I love guys like that from around here that just break through the stereotypes and they don't ask for it, they take it.
Straight
up.
They
take what they want.
Yeah. And that it goes back to what you said. Like it doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what you want and how you're gonna get there. And fortunate for him, he's the first ever guy from Nova Scotia to play in the NBA and make it through a full season. So there's that representation, right? There's what, all these, not to say like not with sports, but like in life, all these other kind of minorities or groups that are trying to like show they want representation within job fields, law. There's these scholarships for minorities to go to law school, to get an education, so they can represent, so that people can look up to them and be like, I can be a lawyer. If I come from somewhere, I can still be a lawyer. Just like now in Nova Scotia or the East Coast, kids can say, I'm going to be in the NBA because Nate's an NBA player. So that's like super, super cool. And like, no matter what happens with his career, even though I think he's still gonna have a great career, he's done what nobody else could do to this point. And you always need that guy to break that bubble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing.
There were so many things, not so many things, but there was things that happened this year in a down year in COVID that allowed Nova Scotia to flourish a little bit. We all know with the shooting and things that happened around here. It was a bittersweet year, but there was guys like Nate that, fuck Nova Scotia. We did it. Like it wasn't Nate that made the NBA. It was Nova Scotia that made the NBA.
Yeah.
And there were so many, I don't want to say so many, but there was like I said, things that happened this year that were just so great for this province. And it was an interesting year, and that was a perfect example of a moment where Nova Scotia was lifted up for that first game that he played. It was really cool to see.
Super, super cool. And like you said, I always try to go through life, and there were some really tough moments for us here. But like in life, you can look at things in two ways. You can find a negative or you can find a positive in any situation. As bad or as good as they both are, you'll drop whatever you want, whatever you're searching for. So as long as you're just looking for like something on a positive note, you'll always make things a little bit better. So I love that you said how you worded that. What
are you doing the rest of the day?
Today, the girlfriend said we have to get groceries, so that's can't skip out on that.
Yeah.
And I might go for a 5K. I just did the sled push, 1,500-pound sled push.
I saw the picture of.
So it's
did you put that on your story?
Yeah, it's 28 45-pound plates, 4 35-pound plates, a 25 in the sled for 15 feet. So now I want to go run 5K.
But your legs must be on fire right now, though.
It's funny. They're actually like, they feel fine. It's just again it's the gradual like build up over time. It's that progress. It's that process.
Yeah.
Some people, if you do a podcast, some people are like, that's a long podcast, or like, it might be hard to stay that engaged.
I see what you're saying now.
And you're like, it's nothing for me.
Yeah. So your legs are just like conditioned for it. Just like,
Yep.
yeah. Where do you like to run? You go by the water? You
There's a few routes I go. Sometimes I just run from our apartment building on Barrington and go down towards Marginal Road, which is like where all the like cranes and like the shipyards are.
down by like Point Pleasant kind of?
Yeah, like I run down by Garrison and like come out and run up Point Pleasant Drive all the way to the top and then cut through Point Pleasant and then like run all the way around the edge and finish kind of near the parking lot.
Okay, yeah.
And then I have like another route that I run that I used to run all the time when I used to live on Quimple. And it's just, you leave Quimple like kind of just after Connaught and you go all the way down, cut through the Commons and just go down pretty much South Park, Yonge Avenue and finish near the parking lot. That one's a little easier. So that one like that's the feel good, like your time's a lot better.
Yeah.
The other one's like the grinder. It's like you get out of like Marginal Road and you look up the Point Pleasant Drive and you just look at this fucking hill and you're like, okay, this is gonna eat me up. And you see all these like actual runners like running in pairs up and down the hill, like flying, but they're all like 160, 70 pounds. They're just floating.
Yeah.
And I'm like 190 of like muscle, just like struggling to get up the hill, just breathing so heavy. But like you said, at the end of the run, your day's amazing.
Yeah. Do you like the cold showers too?
I'll do them here and there. It's funny you said that. When you first said that, my mind went to the only times I really do cold showers are when I'm like blackout.
No way.
And I'm getting the spins.
Oh yeah.
And I try to like shock my system, try to like kind of wake me up a little bit. So I'll go in the shower when I'm like loaded.
Yeah.
Cold water, hot water, cold water, hot water. And hopefully like when I get out and have a towel on, I just pass out in my bed.
I just puke and then I go to bed. That's what I do when I'm black. I just puke and I'm out.
Those are my clients at their sessions.
You've had people puke at your sessions? That's kind of.
It's not ideal for me. Like I don't like them to do it. I always tell, like, especially with boot camps, I tell people go at your own pace. Don't feel like you have to push yourself and keep up with other people if it's your first time.
Yeah.
If you feel yourself starting to go, like just take a minute. Yeah. You're only competing with yourself. Like you're not competing with other. It's not like a time CrossFit challenge there. Clients though, I've had multiple clients throw up, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's on purpose. Like I don't go into workouts being like I want my clients to throw up.
Yeah.
I think genuinely and generally it's an aspect that a lot of people don't realize how out of shape they are. So some people like I've had, and I don't think I've ever lost a client because they threw up and they're like, oh, I'm never going back to him. In fact, like one guy that's still with me to this day, he's part of like a poker crew. I have 3 guys that are all poker players within the community. One guy finished like, 3rd on the World Series of Poker.
Oh, is that
Alex Livingston?
Is he here?
Yeah. So he trains with me with 2 of his friends.
Oh, sick.
And one of them showed up his first day, and he doesn't look out of shape. Like he's slim, like slender.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, like okay, let's go. Like, and usually how I run like my training sessions, we do like we'll get on a bike, or a rower, we'll do something for 5 minutes, kind of warm up a little bit. And then we'll go through like a little warm-up circuit before we actually get into like the lifting and the movement. And he couldn't even get through like the warm-up circuit is usually like pretty like easy, like a little bit of mobility, light weights, like crawling, like bear crawls and stuff. And my guy was like out of it, right? And so that's all he pretty much could do with, maybe we did like really light trap bar deadlifts. And he left the session. And he like texts me. He's like, I just threw up on the highway. And I'm like, he's like, I had to pull over. And I felt bad. Like I felt bad for a second. I'm like, man, I'm so sorry. Like I didn't want you to come like your first day to be like that. And his word to word was like, don't apologize. I've never felt this more alive in my life. And I love it.
There you go.
And to this day, he's like, I love where I am. Like he's so much fitter, for one, but he mentally, like the mental side of things, he's so much more like willing to like just like grind out workouts that seem tough for him. Whereas before he was just like, fuck, like I can't, like he's like, I don't know, like I can't, it's too heavy, or I can't do this. And now he's like I'm gonna fucking finish it. I'm gonna get through this. Like even if it like 10 minutes goes by after a session, I'll like leave him and he'll like finish it off.
I wonder if that correlates at all over to poker, because mental clarity must be big with poker. No.
He's a golfer too. He loves
yeah.
golf. I always wondered that too.
Yeah.
I always wonder that too for all of them. They all seem to do pretty well anyways.
So yeah,
I always joke with them like, now you're gonna be the biggest guy at the poker table.
Yeah.
You're flexing on people and stuff. They just laugh at me. They're like, shut up.
He had a sick tweet over Christmas this year, Alex, and he was like, he's like, anyone that needs money, let me know for Christmas gifts. I think that was the tweet.
So
like, DM me if you need money.
So he and I like had just started talking about training right around that time.
Yeah.
So I had seen that too, and I was like, man, I think he's going to be shocked by how many people message him, because I don't think he realizes how many people, and like Nova Scotia is a really poor province, high taxes, really low average income, a lot of poverty. So I'm like, I don't realize how many messages. I don't think he realized how many messages he's going to get. And then like within like a couple weeks, I remember there was like a week, there was another message like, guys, like if I haven't gotten to your message, it's not that I'm ignoring you. There's just so many. If anybody can help, like message me. And I think some people like joined on board, and it was amazing to see, right? You see somebody that does really well in his profession and stuff like that, give back and try to like do good things for the community. You gotta fucking love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a
You know
cool
what I
tweet
mean?
to see around Christmas time. It was really cool.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. Well, dude, we're coming up on an hour here. We're
Okay.
over an hour. I appreciate you coming. You're the man.
Yeah.
I want to
appreciate
come.
you
I
having
want.
on.
No, man. I want to come.
Come
to
for a training session one day.
Absolutely, I'm coming for a training session.
Shoot.
I don't want to puke, but I want to come.
Yeah.
I want to come, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Anytime, shoot me. I'll send you my schedule, and you can pick a time and
right.
just come in, and we'll video it all.
Yeah. We'll bring the camera. We'll
Yeah.
bring the mics. We'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, I appreciate this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everyone listening, thank you very much for tuning in. It's Thursday. Have fun this weekend. You're the best. Keep supporting us. We're out. Peace.